So I've seen quite a few comments asking how you can revert the changes that were made by Winhance and basically take your computer back to the state it was in before you ran Winhance on your computer. So whenever you run Winhance for the first time on your computer, you'll get this screen that says Winhance has protected your system with backups. If System Restore was disabled, it'll be enabled automatically. And what will happen is it'll create 3 registry backups for 3 different hives, and it's going to save them in that location, which is C, program data, Winhance, and then backups. And then there's also going to be a system restore point called Winhance initial restore point. Then you've got some instructions here. If you want to restore it, you can create a restore point, and then choose the Winhance initial restore point, and then do a system restore using that restore point. So there is also an important note down here that says system restore won't restore your removed apps. And then the registry backups are only created once, which is the first time you run Winhance, and it requires admin rights to restore them. Now you can just dismiss this prompt by clicking on OK, and then you'll be able to use Winhance. Now currently I'm recording this on a standard version of Windows 11, which is version 25H2, and none of the Winhance tweaks has been applied yet. I still have all of the installed apps. This is basically a stock standard install of Windows 11 version 25H2. So what I'm going to do here is run the Winhance recommended config file, and then after that I'm going to use the backup systems that were put in place to revert the changes. But remember, the apps won't be reinstalled, but I'm going to show you how to do that manually if you want to reinstall any of the apps. So to get started, I'm just going to import the recommended config file. I'm going to deselect the external apps section because I'm not going to be installing any apps right now, but I'll leave all of the others checked. Click on OK. All of these items will be removed and I'm fine with that. So I'll just click on yes, and then it's going to execute that config file. Now I've made a lot of videos on this before. I also made an in-depth guide on how to use the current version of Winhance. And if this is your first time coming across Winhance, then I suggest you check out that video to see exactly what the app is about and what you can use it for. But this process usually takes around a minute or 2 to complete, depending on the performance of your computer. So I'll check back with you once it's done. Okay, so the config has been applied successfully, and you can see that the wallpaper has changed, and that the taskbar is clean and the start menu is clean and all of that. And we want to go back to the state it was in before. The first thing that I'm going to do is the system restore. So I'm just going to type system restore, and then we'll get this option that says create a restore point. So if I click on that, we'll get to the system properties, and then you can open system restore up here, click on next, and then you'll have this restore point, which is called Winhance initial restore point. So I'm going to select that, then click on next, and then click on finish. This just says that system restore can't be interrupted. Do you want to continue? Yes, we want to continue. So I'll click on yes, and then it's going to prepare to restore the system back to the state that it was in previously. So this process can also take quite a while, and you'll just have to wait for it to complete. As you can see there, system restore is restoring the registry as well. So any changes that Winhance made to the registry will also be reverted. So we've just loaded back into the desktop and system restore has completed successfully. So I'm just going to close this window. Now let's just look at some of the changes that were made by system restore. So since system restore also restored the registry back to the way that it was before, we're not even going to bother with those manual registry backups that were made, because using them isn't going to have any effect at all, since the registry has already been restored back to the way that it was before Winhance was run. So system restore did change the theme back to light theme, which was the default before we ran Winhance. It looks like it didn't change the wallpaper back to the light theme wallpaper, but we'll try and fix that now. Something interesting I see is that it did indeed reinstall Microsoft Edge, and it also looks like it reinstalled Microsoft OneDrive, and also all of the other built-in Windows apps are still removed, but you can reinstall those with Winhance if you want to reinstall any of those applications. So if we also go and take a look at the settings, and we look at some of the settings that Winhance changes, like for example, the notifications, you'll see the notifications have been turned on again by the system restore point. Obviously, OneDrive has been installed. I mentioned that already. And if we go to privacy and security and we go to general, you'll see that all of this is back to Windows defaults. None of this has been changed by Winhance anymore, and this is all set back to Windows defaults, like it was before we even ran Winhance on the computer. If I go to the control panel, the legacy control panel, and I open the power settings, you can see that only the default plans are active. There's no Winhance power plan here or anything like that. This is back to Windows defaults. The only thing that wasn't changed is the Windows wallpaper. But to change the wallpaper, you can just do that inside of Windows settings, and you go to background. Then you can personalize the background. It's actually set to Windows Spotlight, but it's not showing the Spotlight picture. So if we change it back to picture and then to Windows Spotlight, then it'll now have the Windows Spotlight background there. But like I said, this can easily be changed in the Windows settings, and I'm not sure why the system restore point didn't change the wallpaper. It might require another restart of the computer before that takes effect, but essentially you're now back to exactly what you had before running Winhance on your computer in terms of the registry and settings. The taskbar is back to default, but all of the apps that were pinned have been unpinned on the start menu. So you will need to pin any apps that you want on the start menu back to the start menu, and then they will stay there from this point on. The only thing that hasn't been restored is the apps, the Windows built-in apps that most people regard as bloatware. But like I said, you can just install that using Winhance. Most of them can also be installed manually via Winget or the Microsoft Store. The Microsoft Store online, you can download most of these apps from the Microsoft Store website, and you don't even have to have the Microsoft Store installed on your computer. So although Winhance reports most of these apps as installed, we know that they're not installed. Let's use the phone link, for example. If I do a search for that, the phone link app isn't actually installed. So if I just select that and then install it, Winhance will then download that via Winget from the Microsoft Store, and it's then going to install it to the computer. So any of these apps that you want to reinstall, you can do that using Winhance, but there are some of these items that can't be reinstalled, and you can see that by this indicator here. So for example, Office Hub can't be reinstalled, Cortana can't be reinstalled, Paint 3D can't be reinstalled, neither can Tips or Skype, and then the same goes for the Windows capabilities like Internet Explorer, WordPad, Paint, and then Quick Assist. So the phone link has been installed. If I open the start menu, we'll now have the phone link app back on the computer, and we'll be able to use it. So it opens the Microsoft Store, and then if we open the phone link app, it'll then start updating the phone link app via the Microsoft Store. Now, if you're familiar with Winhance, you'll know that it does continuous removal of apps via the task scheduler in Windows, but the system restore only deleted the scheduled tasks, not the scripts associated with it. So what I would recommend you to do is just click on the help button up here, and then it'll still report that there is removal scripts present by these icons that have been lit up. So all you can do is just click on each of these icons and delete the scripts associated with them. And once that's done, there will be none of these items that will be removed. So you've got an edge removal, a OneDrive removal, and then there's the bloat removal, which is just a single script file that contains most of these applications that are not Microsoft Edge or OneDrive. So to recap, if you want to revert any of the changes that were made by Winhance, then you're going to do a search on your computer for System Restore. You'll get this option that says Create a Restore Point, and if you click on that, it'll open the System Properties Manager. You can then click on the System Restore button here, then choose a different restore point. If you get this window, click on Next, and then you'll have the Winhance Initial Restore Point, and this was created before Winhance made any changes to your computer. So if you select that, then click on Next, click on Finish again, it'll then prompt you to start the system restore. And once you go through with that, it's going to revert all of the registry changes, all of the setting changes that were made, and it also reinstalls Microsoft Edge and OneDrive. But what it doesn't do is change back the wallpaper, it seems like, and it also doesn't reinstall all of the other apps that were removed that you will have to do manually via Winhance, or you can download it from the Microsoft Store page itself. So I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, please consider giving the video a like, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, I just want to give a special shout out to all of my YouTube members. Thanks so much for your support. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to all of you guys soon.